With me now is Rabbi Ariel Konstantyn, the rabbi of the Tel Aviv International Synagogue. A bit unusual, right, to have a rabbi here to talk primarily about Jesus and Jesus' life. But as we know, in this day and age with so many viral videos talking about Jesus and trying to fit the narrative of the Christmas story into whatever political message they want it to fit, it's important to understand some basic facts. So let's begin here, Rabbi. Was Jesus Jewish, and how do we identify that term? Did he identify as Jewish? Was he, but by Jewish law, was he Jewish? Was he a Jew?
Well, the easiest way to tell is to look at the Christian texts. Forget about the Jewish text. What about the Christian text? If you look at Matthew from, chapter 1, verses 1 to 16, it just details his lineage all the way down, they claim, from David down to Jesus. In which case, they are saying within their own very text that he was Jewish. And we know that he was Jewish. He grew up in Jerusalem. He was a scholar, and he was very much Jewish. His followers were Jewish.
A rabbi, right? Was he?
We believe he was a rabbinic scholar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did Jesus live in Palestine?
So that's a funny one, because Palestine, the word Palestine wasn't even invented until about 100 years after his death. It came about after the Bar Kokhba rebellion in 135, after the Romans quelled both the first great revolt when they destroyed the temple in Jerusalem in the year 70 CE, and then again the Bar Kokhba revolt 132 to 135 CE. They also quelled that rebellion, and then they wanted to distance the Jewish connection to our homeland, to Israel. So they renamed Judea, the province of Judea, and the whole region to Syria, Palestina. And in fact, it's not even the name of a country, it's the name of a region. It's kind of calling it like the Middle East. They call it Syria, Palestina. They wanted to relate it somewhat to the Philistines, and the Philistines were long gone from the historical...
It was a term basically that the Romans were saying that area over there.
Exactly.
Our territory over there.
Exactly.
So what's like a simple retort when someone says Jesus was Palestinian? I mean, is there a simple way of acknowledging that based on the time he was born and the location he was born, it's a nonsense argument?
It's complete nonsense. It's completely anachronistic. It has zero historical basis. It's just another set of lies to try to distance Israel and the Jews from our homeland. It's kind of like Holocaust denial. I mean, any rational human being knows that it happened, but yet they deny it. It's like denying that the Holy Temple stood in Jerusalem. These are historical facts that are simply being disputed for no reason whatsoever. And I would say, for simple, any Jew who lived in Israel is also Palestinian, because the Jerusalem Post used to be the Palestine Post, right? It was we dreamed for a return to Palestine.
Currency had Palestine and land of Israel, but the word Palestine was everywhere.
Because that's simply what it was called since the Romans established that name in 135.
Another popular misconception here, or to clear up, this is not just a question of Christian texts or the Christian Bible. It's also just a matter of factual record here. Why, perhaps, would Jesus' parents flee in the first place? Mary was pregnant. They were moving around. This is during King Herod. This is the time of a census. Perhaps why was Jesus and the family decided they needed to move, to flee?
Well, the question is also, where did he come from in the first place?
Right.
I mean, the question, did he come from there's Bethlehem, but there's Bethlehem, Judea, and Bethlehem, Galilee. In fact, in the story of Ruth, for example, it says that Elimelech came from Bethlehem, Yehuda, which means he came from the Judean Bethlehem. It's like saying Hollywood. Is it Hollywood, Florida, or Hollywood, California? So there's a Bethlehem in the north and Bethlehem in the south. In fact, they were doing digging, archaeological digging in the 30s, and the Vatican was a bit afraid that they would uncover the original Bethlehem, perhaps where Jesus actually came from. So the story of him fleeing and all around that is a bit suspect from a historical perspective, because we're not even sure where he was actually born, whether it was in the Judean Bethlehem or more likely the Galilean Bethlehem. It's Jesus of Nazareth. The Bethlehem of the Galilee is much closer to there. So it's more logical from a historical perspective that came from the north. And that kind of shakes up a bit of the story.
Of the census and the killing of the first, even where the actual location of the birth, because of the name appears in a few different places.
Correct.
So what's your reaction, just as a rabbi and a scholar here and someone who knows history, just to all of these viral videos? And you've seen some of them. I mean, they're just flat out wrong. And maybe the people behind them, they know the truth, but they want to pigeonhole the message or change it to fit their particular ideology. Maybe they're just ignorant. I mean, a lot of TikTok videos are just ignorance. I mean, what's your response when you watch them and you see them and you see how popular they are?
It's frustrating. I say, number one, everything must be fact-checked. People have to know to fact check. It used to say when we grew up, it was like, don't believe everything you read. Here, certainly don't believe everything you see, everything that's on the internet. The fact that it exists doesn't make it legit, doesn't make it factual, and people must fact check because there's so much false information out there and it's being put out. I think whether intentionally or unintentionally, it is incredibly harmful because there's a clear historical record, and it's very unfortunate that people are putting out such nonsense and such false information out there.
In Bethlehem now, decades ago, it was a rather vibrant community involving Christians and Muslims, and there were Jews. This is decades ago. Then in the era of Oslo and the Palestinian Authority, this is now Area A. No Jews were there anymore. It's Christians and Muslims. About 25 years ago, it was about 80% Christian at the start of the Area A when it was formed. Now it's down to about 10% Christian. Is there, the people believe falsely that there was a vibrant, active Christian life, growing Christian community in Bethlehem that Israel was responsible for pushing out. The Jews pushed them out.
It's incredibly unfortunate. Again, more and more misinformation. It's simply, the situation there is not enabling. There was the priests that were holed up in the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem that very much discouraged Christian celebrations there after, the hostages were taken within the church. I mean, it's unfortunate. There was a peaceful coexistence and harmony. There should be a peaceful coexistence and harmony. Jews, Christians, and Muslims should be able to live together and coexist and respect one another and have churches and synagogues and mosques together and having a vibrant life. And it's unfortunate that that's not happening. Israel is the last authority doing that. We're the ones who are keeping Jerusalem to access to all. When the Jordan controlled East Jerusalem, we had no access to the Holy Temple, to the Western Wall. We are enabling access. We are enabling freedom of religion and freedom of expression.
Yeah.
When it's under Israeli control, that's when it happens.
Yeah.
So it's very unfortunate that we're being blamed for something that exactly the opposite. When we handed over control, that's when Jews had to be left, and that's when so many Christians are fleeing that area. And it's certainly not us.
Rabbi, thanks for clearing up these misconceptions, talking about the actual historical record. Great to have you again at I-24 News.
Good to see you.